Day 2 of the NFL draft was a complete switch for the Kansas City Chiefs. They went defense and got it done. How did it turn out? Coming up now on Locked On Chiefs.
From the land of the free and the home of the Chiefs, this is the Locked On Chiefs podcast.
Welcome back in, everybody. We are brought to you by our friends over at LinkedIn. You can check them out. Get those jobs posted for the quality candidates you want to talk to fast and easy over at linkedin.com/lockedonnfl. Terms and conditions apply. There's always terms and there's always conditions. A lot went into day 2 of the NFL draft for the Kansas City Chiefs. They went defense. We are going to break it down for you. I'm Ryan Tracy, the founder of Rogue Analytics and Performance Consulting, where you can still go get the draft guide for the year. Use the code LOC. It's at rogueapc.com. You get my stuff at NFL 33 and RGR Football. You can find Chris at KC Chiefs Corner. He has the special headphones on tonight, and he's doing all of his work over at KC Chiefs Corner. And if you've seen the shorts, he's knocking those out as well. It was an interesting day 2, complete 180. We're going to go over the best of the board going into tomorrow, coming up later in the show. We're going to get to the surprises. Ashton Jalott getting drafted in the 2nd pick tonight, as well as a trade up for the 3rd. But we start with the next guy to get a shot at making an impact in the pass rush. This was an all Spags night. Omar Norman-Lott came in for a 30 visit. They talked to him at the combine. They had a lot of actual interaction with him. I had him high on my board. I thought that there could be a connection there, and I like it because he is a pass rushing 3-tech tackle that can line up next to Chris Jones. That's the goal. I'm pretty happy with the selection. What did you think?
I like it. I think it was a great move by Kansas City. They add a guy that can come in and give them pass rush. His big question marks is, can he stop the run? Can he be a reliable run defender? That could keep him off the field a little bit in 2025, but I do think it's a good pick. It gives you value at that position. And we talked about one of the biggest needs that they had this year was picking up another defensive tackle. They did that. And they could add another, and they probably should add another. So, one of the things when it comes to Omar Norman-Lott is it's a question of technique. He gets a little too high sometimes defending the run. That's a technique issue. You can hopefully get that fixed going forward. But adding pass rush at the interior of the defensive line is always something that you're going to benefit from.
Yeah, I completely agree. He's going to get to play against another Tennessee Volunteer in Trey Smith. And that healthy competition, I think, will help as well.
Yep.
Everyday competition is what this team needs and what he will need as well. Now, I agree. Better pass rusher than a run defender right now, but he does make plays behind the line of scrimmage at times. And I do think that he shows an aptitude. It's about an effort for me. I thought it was a little bit inconsistent, but his upsides completely outweigh the downsides. I thought as far as value, being able to stick and pick, I thought that worked out really, really well for them. I was very happy with the fact that they decided that this was just a day. Hey, we got our offensive tackle. We're clearly happy with our top tier wide receivers because we're not going to make them a priority. We're going to go defense, defense, defense. And it starts with the guy, the twitchy guy inside that plays with power, uses his length well, and can actually help chase the quarterback. I really liked it as a first pick.
Yeah, and go back to what we talked about last night. When you start looking at what the Chiefs needed going into this draft, it was they need help on the defensive line and the offensive line. They needed help in the trenches. And what did they do with the first 3 picks that they had? All went to the trenches. And it's not sexy, I'll give you that, but it doesn't matter. It's what you need to be better. So at this point, this is exactly what Kansas City needed to do. They got a guy in Josh Simmons last night who a lot of people think is the best tackle in the class.
Mm-hmm.
They filled that need. Now you go out and get Norman-Lott, and he's another guy that I think can step in and be a starter. Maybe not a starter right away year 1, but could easily be a starter by year 2 and could give you good contributions in 2025. That's exactly what you need. You need young defensive tackle talent. And, we're going to come back and talk about Jalott in a minute and talk about the other interior pass rush that they added to this roster. But it's all what they needed to do. They got younger in the trenches. That's exactly what you need.
And I think the big thing is they had a plan and they stuck to it. They weren't worried last night. They let the board come to them. They let Simmons fall to them, and they weren't concerned about it. They did the same thing here, at least through the 2 picks they had into the early 3rd, and let it fall the way it was going to.
Yeah, and that's not the way that Brett Veach is really drafted, generally speaking. That's the thing that really stuck out to me when looking at this draft so far, is they let it come to them. They felt like Simmons would be there at 32, and they took the chance. He was there at 32. They traded back, obviously a pick, got a 5th-round pick that we'll be talking about tomorrow, and we watch the draft for day 3. But at this point, you have players that are going to step in and give you a chance to be starters, and you need young talent on the defense. They got that tonight, and I'm really excited about what they're able to do. The other thing that really stuck out to me is you go out and you get interior pass rush. You get an edge pass rusher, but you get an edge pass rusher that gives you the versatility to give you more interior pass rush, which we'll talk about here in a couple minutes. But it also lines up with what we've been talking about them needing more defensive tackles and needing more pass rush from the interior. They did it in 2 different picks this time.
Yeah, they absolutely did. And I like the mentality. This is an alpha type personality from everything that I've heard. We'll see how he is when we see him in front of the media and that kind of stuff. But Omarr, I think, is a guy that's going to fit into this condition. He understands he's joining a team that is well-formed, but needs his particular skill set. I think he can rotate in as a pass rusher this season and be able to provide some spark. They're going to need that. Whether it's Jerry Tillery, Mike Pennell's going to play up front for a while. Maybe they make another acquisition. There's enough talent to handle the rundowns that he can grow into that. And I think that's maybe a little bit different. Maybe this is a growing into draft as the way it's coming along. We're going to take a look at the edge rusher, Ashton Jalott, who got taken second, coming up next. As a small business owner, your work doesn't end when the clock hits 5. Your business is always on your mind, which means it's time to hire. You need a partner that works just as hard as you do. That's where LinkedIn Jobs comes in. When you clock out, LinkedIn clocks in. LinkedIn makes it free and easy to post for free on your profile with your network and get qualified candidates that you're looking for all in one place. So post your job. The new feature can even help you write job descriptions and then quickly get in front of the right people with deep candidate insights. And here's the pro tip. Add the hashtag hiring frame to your profile picture to double your reach to qualified candidates. No wonder 72% of small businesses say LinkedIn helps them find the high quality hires right away. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/LockedOnNFL. That's linkedin.com/LockedOnNFL to post your job for free. Terms and conditions do apply. Folks, make sure you make another Locked On show your next listen. You will see a lot of content around here around this draft, and we appreciate you being with us. Like, sub, and hit the bell if you don't know us yet. We've been doing this for 9 seasons at this point, and this has been maybe one of the more fun drafts to see them combine philosophies, letting it fall and then coming back up when they had to. This was a second round that was pretty interesting. I'm sorry, a second day that was pretty interesting. As they got to their second pick and they go to choose Louisville's edge rusher, Ashton Jalott, who I've been talking about a fit for this team for a very long time. It was technically on my board of reach. I had Ashton going to this team. I liked him for this team, but I had him as a 3rd-round pick, not an end of the 2nd-round pick or top of the 3rd. Like, it was almost a round difference. The Chiefs clearly identified a player that I identified as well as having some of the skill sets they want. He produces pressure. 59 and 60 pressures in back-to-back seasons while playing a varied degree of either edge rusher or inside in a 4-eye, even some 3-tech at times. A guy that's versatile. I know that sounds familiar. They identified him,
right,
and they took him early. I think it was a little early. They probably could have tried to trade back maybe and still gotten him. I don't know if there was other pressure, but I'm happy with the selection. Are you?
I am. I think that this is another move that they needed to make. We talked about them needing multiple defensive tackles. This kind of solves that problem to an extent. It gives them another guy that can step in and be a pass rusher like Amini who can, like George Karlaftis can, like Mike Dana can. All those guys can rotate in and become defensive tackles in the right scenarios and in the right schemes. And help you with the interior pass rush, which is exactly what you need. So to me, this is a win-win for Kansas City. They go get a defensive tackle. They take care of that position. They get younger there. And then they go and get another edge rusher that's going to be able to give them more pressure from the outside and a guy that can break down inside. That's extremely important, because when you start talking about who's active on game day, the more you can do every single year, it's a question. The more you can do, the more you're going to play, and the more it's going to be better for the Chiefs and for this roster.
You're absolutely right. And what's really interesting to me is this was a Spags day, obviously 3 defensive selections here, but this was not a Spags pick. Part of the reason I had him as a 3rd rounder is because he is, much like Trent McDuffie, under average in arm length. And I thought that that could be a detriment. But while it's not a typical Spags move, there are a couple of things that are Spagsy that I will point out there. Yes, the arms are outside of Spags' norm, but he is a guy that produces a ton of pressure and converts to sacks really well. He was top 5 in pressure producing for edge rushers 2 years running in college. He knows how to attack with those arms, whatever length they are, it doesn't matter. And he's a guy that rotates and can do a number of things. Now, he also can bend that edge. I know he doesn't look like an edge bender, but he has a sub-7 3-cone, which is harder to find in this class than a lot of people would like to admit. There's a lot of power, straight line rushers, much like George Karlaftis in this class. So to get someone that's bendy as well, that can add power plus a little bit of a different dimension, that fits, I think, a toolbox that Steve Spagnuolo is actively looking to expand right now.
It's always fun to expand what you can do on defense, and it's always fun to have more guys that can get after the passer. One of the things when I talked about on Locked On NFL was that you're in a situation where you can go against a team, or you can go against teams and vary what your front's going to do. And that's exactly what you need to be able to do. So to me, this is a win-win. You look at what Spags has done and what he has done in the past, and it's all about using safeties and variability. It's all about moving players around to fill different positions and to do different things. There's no reason why they can't have different guys at defensive end even fill different roles for them. And I think that's really what's going to be coming.
I agree. You have a couple of guys at the position group that he'll have to fit in with. You have a couple, the veteran Charles Omenihu. You have a couple of former first-round picks on their first contracts to compete with. And you have a guy that I actually think reminds us almost of a yin and yang, very similar in Mike Dana, who played at Michigan inside, but has been able to go outside and produce pressure that I think fits that mold really well. I like the addition. A lot of folks, I think, are going to have complaints about where it happened, but the fact is it happened, and I like the fit from the beginning, and I hope that everybody in Kansas City will give him a fair shake, because I think in this system and with Joe Cullen's help, he'll be able to produce pressure, and that's what we're looking for.
Yeah. And, you know, it's going to come down to what does he produce on the field. In 2 years, if he's producing, 50, 60, 70 pressures a year for the Chiefs, I don't think they're going to care that they drafted him maybe a little bit earlier. So that's the reality. Is it all that's going to matter is what's he produce on the field? Does he give them what they're going to need? Does he make it? The other side of it is that we need to take into consideration that a lot of people forget is defensive end is such a premium position. This also helps you in trying to figure out who's going to be playing that position in the next couple of years, because George Karlaftis is a free agent. I think they'll pick up their 5th-year option. We've talked about that, but that still goes into all of this as well.
Yeah, agreed. Now, they came back and they did something also a little Spagsy, and they got a little aggressive. Traded back up to 85 to acquire Noah Williams out of California, a guy that is just a hair over 6 foot, has, I think, a good skill set for this defense. He played in a pretty zone-heavy scheme. We know he can play zone. Not worried about that, but he has really, really good quickness. And I think his play speed is better in terms of like instinct and jumping and recognition than it is his time speed, which was decent. He came in as overall not the highest matrix, but he came in as the number 2 productive corner in all of my metrics for ball skills. And that's what this defense needs. He was number 5 in our film rankings over at Rogue Analytics. And so that combination is what really does it for me. As I look at our scouting report on him, handsy and physical in man fits the bill, right? Can play in space and recognizes in zone. That fits the bill. Triggers downhill quickly, best suited in a scheme that leans towards a combination of cover 2 and 3. Sounds like Spags, right? 2-man is his favorite coverage. Best when you get to reading the quarterback with the wide receiver in his peripheral vision. So he can play the ball. And I think that's the one thing, if we're going to upgrade here, you want to get somebody to play the ball. I think he has a shot to be the starter as a rookie. I think Jalen Watson's on notice. He's got to continue. He's got to stay healthy. I think this is a pick that's really interesting, and it allows them, if they choose to keep Trent McDuffie on the inside at nickel in a starting 3 with Fulton on one side and either Williams, or Watson on the other side.
Sounds like a law firm. The funny thing about this is all they did, like they went from 95 to 85 to pick Williams, and all they gave up was next year's 4th round pick, a pick that they got for Joe Thuney. Yeah. It was a pick that they got for Joe Thuney. So they don't have that extra pick next year. Stinks in a way, but they get a corner that they like. They get a corner that it sounds like, I've already listened to a couple of the things that they've said. They believe he can be a starter, and he is pro ready. He is one of the most pro ready corners at that position in the draft that they felt was going to be there, and there would be a large drop off after him. So to me, if you get a 3rd corner that can step in and be a starter in year 1, that's a win. And if Jalen Watson becomes your 4th corner, that's a huge win. You and I both looked at each other kind of cross-eyed thinking Brett Veach was talking about corners in this draft, thinking they're not going to go corner. Look what happens.
Yeah, hey. I mean, you have a very good point. If Jalen Watson is your 4, you're in pretty dang good shape. I think that is a smart pick. We'll have to see how it evolves, but there are others. Could they go back to corner? There's a lot of value on day 3. What should they do, and what are their picks? That's coming up next. The NBA playoffs are almost here, and FanDuel is giving away new customers an incredible way to get into the action right now. When you join FanDuel and you place a first bet of $5, you can earn up to $250 in bonus bets if that bet wins. I love how FanDuel makes it easy no matter what season it is. Now that March Madness is over, we're moving it on to the NBA. It's going to be baseball, and then we are going to finally get back to ball on the field for the NFL. From 3-pointers to steals to assists to making those kicks, it's all here, and your chance is at FanDuel. Don't miss out. Head to FanDuel.com and claim your $250 in bonus bets today. We are going to have another breakdown for you next tomorrow, I guess I should say, not the next day. After day 3, Chiefs have 4 picks. I'm sorry. They have 5 picks currently in day 3. I think the fact that the 4th went in the trade up for Noah Williams gives you an idea that they may be willing to move around the board on day 3 here with 3 7th-round picks they can just use to move the board slightly. It doesn't have to be big jumps, but they start with the 31st pick in the 4th round, the 28th pick in the 5th round now, due to that trade yesterday. And in the 7th round, the 10, 35, and 41st, the last pick of the draft. Do you expect them to take all 5?
No. But to be fair, and I said this, I said this on Thursday, or when we were recording Thursday's show, I didn't expect them to stick at 31 or pick in the 30s. And I want to be clear, I did say I think the 30s. Which is exactly what they ended up doing. So I'm not going to say that they will or won't. I don't expect them to. I will be very surprised if they pick all 3 of those picks in the 7th round. But the other side of the reality of this is that if they look at it and they say, okay, well, maybe they feel like they can get the guy that they want in the 4th round. Maybe they feel like they can get the guy that they want in the 5th round. And then you're just taking those 7th round picks and you're looking at your list of undrafted free agents saying, okay, who do we think that would be real expensive to sign, or who do we think we can't get here? And you just go take them. And honestly, it's not going to matter to me when we sit back and we talk about this draft tomorrow. It's not going to matter to me if some people in the 7th round that they took have an undrafted grade, because the reality is they're probably not going to make the roster. And the Chiefs are looking at them saying, this is a guy that we like. This is a guy that we want. And we can't guarantee we're going to be able to get him as an undrafted free agent. We're going to go take him right now.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense, and they guard against it. So where should they go? With offensive tackle on day 1, full defensive draft here, I think it leaves it wide open. But I do think there's a couple of places that they should go. You mentioned doubling up at defensive tackle. I think they could do that at offensive tackle. There are a number of developmental players available at both positions. What would you think of that? Do you think it would be wasted?
I'm not going to say it's going to be wasted. What I would say is that I don't expect them to double up at offensive tackle. But it wouldn't shock me if they do. That's a position. And the reason it wouldn't shock me is look at what happened last year when you thought you at least had some depth there, and you obviously didn't with the way the season ended. So it would not shock me for them to go the other direction and try to overcorrect, so to speak, in that regard. And they've also said, Andy Reid's also said, and he's always said, the best 5 offensive linemen are going to play. So it's also possible that we're not going to see Jalen Moore or Josh Simmons be playing left tackle. They could be playing another position. One of those two guys
could easily be. I think it's thinner at offensive tackle. Best available on my board is Cameron Williams, right tackle from Texas. I do like him, and I think he's an ascending player with a lot of ceiling yet to go. Logan Brown is another one. Miles Hinton. But the guy I would keep my eye on, especially for one of those 7th-round picks, is Asapole from Wazoo, a guy that they've had visits and contact with. He was right on the border of being a UDFA grade for me, and I think he's exactly the kind of scenario where you might grab him just so nobody else can in that 7th round. Now, on the defensive side, how much do you think the defensive tackle position is versus, say, a wide receiver or running back at this point?
The other thing that's really interesting about this is I do think Kansas City probably had some interest in some of the guys that went ahead of them when it came to the 2nd-round pick in Norman-Lott. I'm guessing that they probably liked maybe the running backs or some of the wide receivers, but the value just wasn't there. They didn't feel like they wanted to trade up, or they couldn't get somebody to trade with them. So they take Norman-Lott. Now you're in a situation where you have defensive tackle taken care of to an extent. Can you add more? Yes. Is it going to be valuable to add more? Maybe. Depends on who's there. Your boy Ty Robinson could still be there. We'll see whether or not he's there. If they add him, that'd be a pretty big coup for this defense in a draft that I wasn't expecting to go off or defense as much as they have to this point. But I still think I'd be very shocked if at some point tomorrow they don't draft a wide receiver or maybe even a tight end. I think there's going to be a pass catcher of some sort. It may not be a wide receiver, may not be a tight end, but I think there's going to be a pass catcher of some sort. And I would also be surprised if they don't take a running back, just because I think that they want to get better at that position. And I don't think there's any possible way that Isaiah Pacheco is going to be playing in Kansas City in 2026. And obviously I think Kareem Hunt will probably be gone as well.
Yeah, that makes some sense to me. I can understand that. Wide receiver, best on my board available, vary a little bit. You have Royals, quick, nasty, can get the job done, followed by Omarr from Stanford, who seems a bit like a Rashee Rice clone to be, and a taller, thinner, but speedy top-end guy in Torrey Horton from CSU. Those are my top 3 wide receivers. There's only 6 running backs that have gone to this point. So tops on my board are still Scatabo, Martinez, then Devin Neal, Sampson, Giddens, Jaden Blue for a home run hitter, Basha Tootin for a home run hitter. Like, there's some interesting, like, if you're going to just take a piece of a backfield, that might be a late day 3 pick that could really pay off for you.
Yeah, and they need anything that they can get on offense. Wide receiver is going to be a position that they're going to need in 2026 as well. And when you're drafting in the 4th and 5th round, you're looking for guys that can contribute in 2025 in special teams, and guys that could maybe come in and give you more of a contribution in 2026. Maybe you'll get lucky and you'll be able to find somebody that can do both and give you more in 2025 than 2026. We'll see. I'm going to be really curious to see what direction they go, because at this point, you've taken care of 2 of your biggest needs at offensive tackle and defensive tackle. You added a pass rusher and defensive end. You've added a corner. I don't really see a great spot other than maybe another defensive tackle where they could really add players. But when you start getting past the 5th round, it doesn't really matter at that point, because you're probably talking core special teams guys at best getting past the 5th round. But
I agree.
We'll see on offense if they do anything else. Sorry.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely fine. Linebacker, athletic linebacker, special teams coverage linebacker. There are still quite a few out there that I really do like that could fit the bill. Boss is more of a tweener from Oregon. I think he might be somebody that they like. I love Teddy Buchanan as a coverage linebacker. Kay Madrano, same thing. Both special teams types. Nick Martin went earlier than I expected. Barrett Carter,
those are like
Bruner.
late D3 guys, right?
Yeah, fifth round and below probably.
Okay.
But ample room here, right? Especially if you move around a little bit.
No, absolutely. I'm just trying to clarify. We're not looking at somebody they're going to take in the fourth round or maybe even the fifth round with where they are. It's more likely if they're going to take a linebacker, it's going to be somebody that's going to be beyond the fifth round because you're looking at special teams guys, which you're not going to generally spend an early day 3 pick on.
I have a couple of safeties that are still on the board that I do like. Latham Ransom and Billy Bowman are probably not perfect fits, is that they have some redundancy with what's on the roster now. But Jalen Reed and Keaton Crawford definitely fit the mold of what they might like to add that's a little bit more varied. Unless they feel like Shamari Connor can move to a free safety and really cover. He does have some instincts back there, but I think they need more speed at the safety and a little bit lighter, a lot more ball skills is the best way I can put it.
Man, we've been talking about how that they could really use that free safety type role. I just don't think that they're going to be finding it at the back end of this draft. We will see if that's different. But the other thing that I think could really be something to try to focus on in the 4th and 5th round or 4th or 5th round, whichever, is a returner. If they can find somebody at a wide receiver position, I can't imagine that they'd really want to go corner because at this point, your 4 deep are pretty set. Like, I don't think there's anything that's going to happen that's going to keep those 4 off the roster. Josh Williams, I think, would be set as your 5th corner. So at that point, it's a question of can you keep 6 or 7? I mean, I don't think you can. So you're probably going to be looking at, can you find a running back that could be a returner? Can you find another wide receiver that can be a returner? Unless you really like what you have in Nika Remigio, which you may.
Yeah.
But can you find somebody that's better than what you have?
Yeah, and that certainly is the question. I think it's going to be an interesting day 3. I don't expect them to pick exactly where they are. Let's hope that they move around. And Mary, I see you in the chat. It is Isaiah Nayor from Nebraska that you're mentioning, and I appreciate you. Hope you guys enjoyed this one. We will be back for you after day 3 as well.
Over, under, how many picks do they have? I'll say 3.5. That you go over or under?
I think they go over. I think it's 4, though.
Okay. I'll go under. I can't see him. I can't see him doing that many picks. I can't see him taking 3 picks in the 7th round, or even 2 picks in the 7th round for that matter.
Okay. Well, let's see what they do. They have a unique situation where they can choose what they do with it. You can move up with 7s here on day 3 fairly easily. I don't think it's a huge cost. So if they have targets, let's see what they go after. We'll break it all down for you tomorrow. Make sure you like, sub, and hit the bell. Check out KC Chiefs Corner, RGR Football, NFL 33, Rogue APC. You can still get the guide with all the breakdowns and all the things that you need to know about your new Chiefs. Have a great night and have a great Saturday. We'll talk to you tomorrow.